Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are watching me play Warframe. Today we're going to go over my Valkyr build. This is my Valkyr Prime. I think she looks really cool. I love how Valkyr looks. First, abilities. Her passive is she recovers 50% faster from being knocked down. That's nice, but it's not something you're likely going to be noticing ever, because hopefully you're never going to get knocked down with Valkyr because she's immune to status for most of the time. She's also immune to damage most of the time, which makes her pretty powerful. Her first ability is Ripline. You can grab an enemy and sort of get over here, Scorpion style, or you can use it as a grappling hook and fire onto terrain, and she will like pull herself up there, which is really, really cool. I actually find the sort of grappling hook aspect of it better than pulling enemies, because pulling enemies doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. It does open them for finishes, which is nice, but, I mean, you do so much damage with Hysteria that it's less relevant that you get finishes, in all honesty. Next, we have Warcry. You let out a Warcry that ups your attack speed. Also increases your armor as well, of you and nearby allies, and it also slows down enemies. So it's very, very good. Duration's kind of slow on this build, but honestly you can just recast it fairly frequently because it doesn't cost a huge amount. Paralysis. She screams and uses some of her shields to do a like AoE stun on the enemies. I think in a cone in front of her, technically. It's either full AoE or it's a cone in front of her. I'm pretty sure it's a cone. But it just sort of stuns them for a bit, and they take more damage while they're stunned, so that's a thing. And finally, Hysteria. This is definitely Valkyr's kind of go-to ability. You become invincible, and you use your Exalted Claws to rip people to shreds. That's pretty much it. It has some weird eccentricities about it. Notably, all of the damage that you are taking, or rather, all the damage you would have been taking, is counted and added up in the top right. And after you end Hysteria, if you are standing close to, in line of sight of an enemy, you will take all of that damage at once, and usually die. So you have to actually make sure you're not in line of sight of enemies when you turn your 4 off, otherwise you'll take a shit ton of damage. I'll try and show how that works in the actual test. It's kind of hard to show, really, but I'll show it off. Okay, build-wise. First, we have her talons. I'll go over the actual Exalted Weapon first. We have Prime Pressure Point for damage, Sacrificial Steel for critical chance, Organ Shatter for critical damage, Gladiator Might for more critical damage, Prime Fever Strike and Shocking Touch for toxin and electricity damage, respectively, which gives you corrosive. You can swap these out for whatever you want to get whatever element you want. I just prefer corrosive most of the time. We then have Berserker here for attack speed on critical hit. And we're going to be getting a lot of critical hits because we're actually sitting on 90% critical. It's kind of ridiculous. And we also have Prime Breach. She does have some problems with the claws having kind of small reach, so I really suggest having, at the very least, having a normal reach in here. And if you can get Prime Reach, go for it, because it's just so useful. She has some real problems with range on this. But they're the claws, and we'll go over the actual build for Valkyr. Here, we have Steel Charge. Increases your melee damage, which works for a 4, which is very, very nice. We have Power Drift for ability strength and a chance to resist knockdown. Prime Continuity for ability duration. Streamline and Fleeting Expertise for ability efficiency. Fleeting Expertise loses you a bit of duration. It's worth noting here, I usually go, and usually advise, that you go 4 and 4 as far as the ranking for these. But we're actually using Blind Rage in this build, which takes away your efficiency, so you actually have to like put over the maximum efficiency because you will be actually cutting some down. Next we have Prime Flow for a bunch of energy in our energy pool. Hunter Adrenaline, so if you do happen to run out of energy, you can get more very, very easily just by taking damage. We then have Blind Rage, as I said before, for a bunch of ability strength at the cost of some of the efficiency. Umbral Intensify for ability strength, and Umbral Fiber for armor. And you can see here she has 1575 armor. That's ludicrous. For all except the very high-end stuff, like things over like level 120, she's going to be hard cut to die, even with her very low health pool with that much armor, because that cuts down the amount of damage you're taking significantly. Also, we have Arcane Aegis on here for shield regen, and Arcane Fury on here, which gives you 30% melee damage when you get a critical hit. And as I showed before, on her claws, she has 90% critical chance on her claws, so you're going to be getting critical hits a lot. But we can do the test now fairly easily. I'll grab some energy first. Level 145, simulate. So, if you hit your 4, you go into Hysteria. It gives this kind of hue over the top of the screen, and you can see she's got her claws out. Her 1 is a grappling hook, or you can use it to pull enemies. There, like that. As I said, opens them up to finishes, but meh. Her 2 ups her melee speed a lot and slows down the enemy. As you can see here, very fast melee speed. I'll wait until I go back to normal. This is normal melee speed. Whoa. That wasn't your end, that was my end. Freezing for a second there. And then finally, we have her 3, which is a scream, and it stuns the enemies. That's pretty much it. Now, one thing left to show off is this enemy is still alive. You see on the top right there. I may have to replay that, but on the top right you could see that I had 7,000 damage counted up on my damage counter. And what that means is when Hysteria ended, as I ran out of energy, is that I took all of that damage at once. Now, you may think, but you don't have 7,000 health and or shield, so how did you survive that? But the reason is... Whoops. Died to a shotgun. The reason is that that number doesn't actually take armor into account. So as you can see here, I'll go like this. This guy can shoot me a bunch. I'll let both of them shoot me. There you go. So that's like 900 right there. If I'm out of line of sight, I can turn off. Don't take any damage whatsoever. If I, however, am in line of sight, and they're inside this big ring around me, you can see, that ring will get slowly bigger as Hysteria keeps going on. But 1,000 damage, I take all the damage at once. So that's how that works, essentially. So you only ever want to turn off Hysteria if you essentially just break line of sight with enemies. Strictly speaking, it is break line of sight with enemies and or make sure they're outside your ring. Like, this guy can be in my line of sight. But if he's outside the range, I can turn it off and I don't take the damage. So they have to be in your line of sight as well as in the ring. He can also be inside the range and out of line of sight. That also means you won't take damage. Talk about out of line of sight. He disappeared. Oh, hello. Alright, he's dead. Alright. But that's Valkyr in a nutshell. She's very, very good. She doesn't scale as well as she used to. But she can still do pretty much anything in the game, just because invulnerability is really, really nice. Her one kind of hard counter, I suppose would be the best way of saying it, is nullifiers, because if you get nullified, you pretty much die immediately. Simply because it turns your Hysteria off if you are nullified. And as you saw there, if you've been taking like 1,000,000 damage throughout the mission, because you've had Hysteria on the entire time, then you get nullified, you just take 1,000,000 damage at once, so you will die. But aside from that, she's pretty good. And it is worth noting that in her 4, with the new melee changes they've done, if you switch to your gun, you can see here, I have my gun out, and I'm no longer invulnerable, but my energy is still draining. It's because my Hysteria is still out. If I switch back to a melee weapon, I go back into Hysteria. So that's something they've changed, which I kind of like, but I also kind of don't. Like, I like it for Excal, for instance. I just don't like it for Valkyr very much, because occasionally I'll aim glide if I'm in Hysteria, and doing so brings out your gun and makes you die because you get shot. But, you know, that's just how the new melee system works. Gotta get used to it, I suppose. But that's Valkyr. I like her a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time.